Exciting news, everybody. Juniper Networks with their Mist AI cloud-based microservices solution have just released a whole new bunch of exciting, innovative and powerful features that are just so exciting that I simply have to do this video to tell you all about them. Hey everybody and welcome back. I'm David Townsend from The Net Academy, where we are learning networks together. And as I said on the intro, this is a video about the new features, the new batch of features that Juniper Networks has just released for their Mist Cloud AI based solution. And on this video, I just want to go through the top 4, or what I think are the top 4 features that really grabbed my interest and show you just why they're so innovative and why they're so powerful. So no more said, let's get going. And here is the actual update I'm talking about. It came out on May the 16th, 2024. If you want to see any of the updates that have been released previously or new, depending on when you're watching this video, just go to this website here. It's all public. You won't have any restrictions. But for this video, I'm actually referring to all the updates that are contained on this May 16th, 2024 updates. And just look how big this update is. I mean, it's a Godzilla-sized update. And if I just scroll down, these are all the features from... Actually, I don't want to name them just yet, but there's access assurance, there's wireless assurance, there's simplified operations, wired assurance, WAN assurance, features for the Mist Edge, behavioral changes, and feature deprecation, features being removed. So we won't cover that part. But if I just scroll down, look how massive all of these features are. And that's why I'm only going to go on to or through the top 4, or what I think are the top 4, or the ones that really grabbed my interest. Because as you can see, there's a lot, and there's no way I'm doing all of that in one video. So don't worry, I'm not going to put you through that amount of pain. But the first feature I actually want to talk about is right here. Juniper Apstra Cloud Services Integration. So integration with Apstra. Now, if you don't know what Apstra is, don't worry. I'm about to get out my artistic skills, or lack thereof, and do a little bit of drawing into what is Juniper's Apstra, so you can understand why it's integrated into the AI operations of Juniper's Mist. So here we go. Let's first talk about what is Apstra. And I'm doing this again so you can understand why it's been integrated into the AI operations, the AI ops on Mist. But first and foremost, Apstra is for the DC. It is for the data center. It's a data center solution from Juniper Networks. And let's just keep on with my artistic skills. So this little rectangle here, this is going to be a spine switch. We're going to have another spine switch over here. And let's just say right below these, we've got, wait, that's really big, but it doesn't matter. We've got 3 leaf layer switches. And here's the third one right about here. And let me just change the color. And each of these leaf layer switches, you can think of them as access layer switches, have connectivity to each one of those spines, or core layer switches if you're more familiar with that terminology. So let me just draw all of this out. And a little bit of a mess, but it doesn't matter. Now, the function of the leaf switches is to really connect all of those servers, because we're talking about data centers here. So all of these servers which are hosting all the different virtual machines, tenants and hosts, to the network. And the leaf devices then pass that traffic up to the spine devices. And if this switch server, wanted to communicate to this server over here, it could do so via this spine here or this spine here by just taking that round way distribution of getting from one leaf to the other. We're not talking about their technologies, we're talking about Apstra. But generally, that is a Clause 3 DC architecture. But let's bring it back to this topic of the data center. Data centers are, of course, complex. They have a lot of technical parts to them. And in the Juniper Apstra's world, there's 3 different stages when it comes to deploying and monitoring and ensuring that the data center run by Apstra is functioning as it should be. So in stage 1 is all about the design. So with the design, it's actually designing what those spine devices actually are, what those leaf devices actually are. And that's important because when it comes to Apstra, this is a multi-vendor solution. So it's from Juniper Networks, but it can function, it can manage Juniper switches, Cisco switches, Arista switches, and quite a bit more. So basically you're deciding here the architecture, the configuration, the subnetting, the connectivity, the uplink speeds, the downlink speeds, etc., everything when it comes to designing a data center you're doing in stage 1. In stage 2, you then deploy that design onto the data center itself. And Apstra's there making sure, of course, that all of that is deployed from that initial design onto the network, regardless of the vendor. And in stage 3, step 3, if you want to think of it like that, is what's referred to as day 2 plus operations, where it's constantly validating that the initial design, which was deployed on that data center network, is running as it should be and that there's not any deviations. So in here is the day 2 plus operations. And if you think about the operations of a data center and the amount of telemetry in terms of the switching and routing tables and the policies and the traffics, how hot those leaf and spine devices get, the load balancing, transceiver health, etc., there's a lot of functional technical parts that are moving, and it's here within those day 2 operations for this whole data center that is being integrated or has been integrated into Juniper's Mist. How do you do this integration? It is very straightforward. Underneath the organization, tongue twister, under the organization tab just here, click on organization, go into the settings, scroll right to the bottom, and now you can see the Apstra Cloud Services integration. Need the org ID, the API token name, and the token itself, grayed out for obvious reasons. But once you've done this, that's day 2 telemetry. All those important, here's the keyword, actions are being streamed, sent over from Apstra to Mist for the AI operations. But where do you see that on Mist? Well, I've not covered it yet. I've not made this type of video just yet. So Juniper, you're way ahead of me. Kudos, well done. But it's under the Marvis actions. If you know what Marvis is and what Marvis actions are, this is just a superb move from Juniper. And here we go here. I've gone into the Marvis actions. So this is the Marvis actions themselves. And here is the data center application actions. But what does an action actually mean? Well, think of yourself being in a administrative team, in a network operations team for that data center, and an interface has gone down, or maybe there's a switching routing issue, etc. That is going to impact a number of clients, hosts, tenants that are connected in those servers to that data center network. It's impacting their traffic. And the Marvis actions is thus within here saying that there's 16 actions, 16 things that you need to do as that administrator, as that network operational team to resolve those data center issues. So I cannot stress enough how powerful this new feature is, where we've got the AI ops, the AI machine, the AI algorithms on Juniper Mist interpreting all that day 2 telemetry that's come from Juniper's Apstra from the data center, and is now able to tell anyone this is what you need to do to improve your day 2 operations in the data center. I'm sure you can agree that is a really massive feature, and I just absolutely love that. And the second feature that I just want to go through, that's part of my top 4, is this, the network classifier. There's a new classifier for the access points or the AP for their health, for the service level expectations. If you don't know what wireless assurance is and what an SLE or service level expectation is, please check out this link. It's all described there. But this is a brand new SLE that has joined that wireless assurance world. And coming back onto the Mist system, where do you actually see this? Well, if I go under monitor, service levels, go into the wireless, I'm just going to give it a little bit more information the last 7 days. Scroll to the bottom, and right here is this new SLE for the AP health. So if I just select on here, we can see AI is telling us the amount of APs that have got not enough power, which APs have been disconnected from the Mist cloud, which APs have got a layer 2 Ethernet connection issue. It's really, really intelligent. And now what's new is this network. And within here are those new sub classifiers. So within the network, classifier is able to distinguish using AI for the network, which is connecting to those access points, those Mist APs, what events are impacting clients connecting over Wi-Fi. Is it latency? Is it jitter? Or is it actually there's a tunnel down to that Juniper's Mist edge? And let's put it into perspective. Let's put it into the actual scenario. So for this particular site, live demo for the last 7 days is all the AI data you are currently seeing. And for the APs, for all those access points that are connected to this particular site for the last 7 days, it has passed 91% of that service level expectation that you define as that administrator, as that NOC team. But that obviously means there's 9% missing. And the classifiers here then break out. Where has that 9% actually gone? So less than 1% was actually due to networking issues. The main contributor was actually layer 2 Ethernet issues. But for this missing 1% is now this new sub classifier here, tunnel down for the Mist edge. So now got visibility from an SLE perspective into the tunnels going to a Mist edge if a Mist edge is actually deployed on campus, on site. Absolutely fantastic. And the third feature I really want to talk about is here, the post-connect charts for client signal to noise ratio and the transmit and receive rates for or in those client insights. I'm not much of a wireless guy, but this is incredibly useful. This is the third feature that really stood out for me. Let's see why. Well, let's go back onto the user interface, back onto the Mist, and let's just go back to the service levels. And I just want to go into a particular client. So I'm just going to select any client here. So I'm going to pick on a client, tongue twister again. Pick on a client called Denali. And I'm just going to scroll straight ahead because I just really want to show this. So let's just go into Successful Connects and into the View Insights. There's a quicker way to do that. But now if I scroll right down onto this Client Insights, look here. We can now see for any given client on Mist the transmit and receive PHY or physical layer bytes. So these are all the transmitted and received bytes at the physical layer, at layer 1, that have been sent and received respectively for that AP that's connecting to this particular client, i.e. client Denali. And we can also see over here the transmit and receive bits per second. But right down here is that client SNR, signal to noise ratio. If you don't know what SNR is, I like to think of it as if you're in a room with just a few people and you're having a conversation and you could just talk normally. But say more people arrive, more noise arrives, and they're each having their own conversation. They're starting to yell and talk and chat a little bit louder. That noise they're generating is getting louder. And as yourself, you're getting drowned out and 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 just drowned out by all that background noise. That is essentially what an SNR is. It's a signal, your signal, to the noise ratio, all that noise that's happening around you. And you don't want your Wi-Fi signal to be impacted by SNR, because as the SNR increases, as the ratio increases of noise, that's going to impact the strength, the stability, really that receiving AP to receive a good, stable and hearable Wi-Fi signal. But now you can see over the last 7 days for this particular client, how's that SNR actually been. So it's been pretty accurate over the last 7 days, but you can see here there's a little spike just here. And what you can actually do is you can move the cursor to that particular spike itself. And you can see on the other tables like the transmit and receive PHY rates and the transmit and receive bits per second, did that SNR drop too low? Was it too close to the signal itself? And did the client still keep transmitting? It's all about the correlation of information. So again, this is why this is my third feature that really stood out for me in this whole new batch of feature updates. And the fourth feature I want to discuss and just quickly go through is right here, the switch bandwidth SLE. Again, there is a new SLE, a new service level expectation for wired clients. If you don't know what wired assurance is, again, check out this link. I've described it there. And I'll be a little bit honest, I made that video that I just shared a week or 2 weeks ago. And because of the glorious microservices on Mist and just the ability to roll out these new features, it's already out of date. So thank you, Juniper. I do mean that, well done on the services. But there is now a new bandwidth SLE, a service level expectation for bandwidth on the switches. And I'm a switching and routing man, so I absolutely love that that Juniper are bringing out new SLEs for the wired or the switching network. So once again, back on the user interface, back on Mist, where is this new bandwidth SLE? Well, let's just quickly go into monitor service levels and let's go right to the top. I was already there. And now you can see the wired for this particular site. Let's just do the last 7 days just to get enough data. It's not really important, but it's just something I like to do. And here it is, just here, bandwidth headroom underneath the switch bandwidth SLE. So let's select switch bandwidth. Note that is a whole new SLE. There used to be 3 service level expectations, 3 SLEs for wired assurance. There used to be throughput, successful connects, and switch health. But now there's those 3 plus switch bandwidth on the top. And what Juniper's done is they've taken these 2 classifiers, which were originally actually all the way up here underneath throughput. They're now no longer in there, so you can see they're now located all the way down here under switch bandwidth themselves. But as I said, there's now this new classifier that is bandwidth headroom. And let's actually just select this so I can just zoom in a little bit more. And it's all showing blank because the switch bandwidth, and this is the good news, is running at 100%. And thus, these are all just grayed out. They're 0% for obvious reason. But the congestion, what is congestion? The congestion classifier is basically identifying as those frames dash packets are coming into that received port. They're going to go into a buffer. They're going to go into a queue. You're going to have a map scheduler, etc., etc. And if any frames dash packets are being dropped, this is identifying, there's congestion happening on those received ports. The congestion uplink is more about the egress. It's more, guess what, about the uplink to that connected device on that egress interface. So if you've got a switch connected to a router or a switch connected to another switch, and maybe that switch is a master bridge, talking about STP, the bridge PDU for that spanning tree protocol topology, etc., etc. If there's uplink happening for many different reasons, such as the ones I've mentioned, it's going to identify it here. But what is this bandwidth headroom? Well, let's just say, for example, that link going to the uplink is at 1 gig. Just for example, let's keep things simple. Let's not go too complicated. And let's say you define that expectation of 90%. Don't forget, SOEs, the service level expectations, are all about defining what do you expect in terms of experience on the network. So if you define 90% of 1 gig, that's of course 900 meg. But what happens if traffic exceeds or goes over 900 meg? So let's say it goes to about 950 megabits per second, just for example. That is getting dangerously close to the max bandwidth that you've got on that pipe between that switch and that switch, or that switch and that router, that switch and the AP, whatever it actually may be. But, or maybe the switch to the client, maybe it's a client directly connecting. So the bandwidth headroom is literally identifying, using AI, you've only got this headroom left from the max pipe, the max capacity of that link, And this is what you're using, this is what's left over, and thus it's giving that operator, that NOC team, the ability to either throw down that traffic or assign more bandwidth to that connection. And so there we go, everybody. Those are my top 4 features that have just come out in that latest release from Juniper Networks for that Mist solution. But just quickly, you can see that there is a lot more. There's features for the private pre-shared key portal, specifically an admin portal. There's enhancements for BOE asset tracking. It's now even recommended. Tongue twisters are getting me today. Recommended Junos firmware upgrades to actually move to. And I'm a big fan of OSPF updates to how to configure an OSPF network on the Mist templates, and so much more. So please don't take my word for it. Check out the documentation, check out those new features that you could have on your Mist solution if you've already got it, or if you're thinking to moving and adopting Juniper's Mist. Check out the documentation. The link is down in the comments box. Other than that, I hope you found that useful. Hope you found that informative. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.